Alrighty, welcome to Pure Embodiment Corner, where we lay our performance and we step back into truth. I am so excited to have here Adam. He is a husband, he's a father, a son, an amazing health coach, and also a writer on Substack. I'm so happy that you joined us today.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here for sure, especially your first in-person one as well.
Yes, I'm so happy to finally be here. How are you feeling today?
Feeling good, actually, all things considered, right?
Okay.
Has the day been rolling? Enemy always tries to come and attack, but if you keep pushing and keep going, nothing can stop you.
Absolutely. You said it perfectly. He's driving all the way from Houston. So thank you so much for the drive. Thank you for coming out. And I'm just so excited to be here.
I'm excited. Let's get going.
Okay, awesome. So tell me a little bit about your upbringing, how you were raised, and some of the first earlier stories that shaped you to be the man you are today.
So I was raised in what I call a broken home.
Mhm.
My mother and my father split when I was around 7, 8. So I actually witnessed their last fight, their divorce. I was in the middle of all of that. So it did affect me in a way to where I grew resentment for them. There was a time, a period where I didn't even talk to them because I didn't want to be around them, right? I didn't feel safe. Everything was, even their presence was triggering for me. I seen my mom throw a phone at my dad. I seen my dad get stitches. I've seen my brothers leave. So, and I'm the youngest boy,
Okay,
right? Right.
so you're the youngest of.
3 boys.
Okay,
And then my
wow.
dad remarried. He met his current wife in the middle of their divorce.
Okay.
So that sprouted a whole nother flame, right?
Yeah.
And then so I have this new parent figure that's in their life, right?
Mhm.
And then they have a kid. So I'm
Oh
like,
wow. So
oh,
it's a
okay.
lot,
And it's
a
right
lot of
without the
change.
adjustment, right? Because when we look at divorces and stuff, like a lot of the parents, you're angry, you're mad,
Mhm.
you're not thinking about the kid. And so I was that kid that was left in that space, right? And so I spent my life just being out in the streets, going with friends and avoiding the house, right?
Mhm.
At 16, I actually wanted to commit suicide because I
I'm
was
so sorry to
so
hear about that.
just feeling abandoned, like nobody really cared.
Yeah.
And so even now, looking back at those things, it helps me be a father today.
Yeah. You said something so powerful. You said that a new person came in and they also brought in a new child. And I had this anger. You had this anger. Did you feel like you had the the words to express why you were angry?
Absolutely not. But what kid does? Especially
Yeah.
at 7, 8, those are really like developmental years.
Yeah,
So who
absolutely.
you don't really have the words to say, and then if you don't feel safe enough to say it, you're not going to say it. So you kind of
Yeah.
just bottle it up. Especially as
Yeah.
boys, we were taught to like suck it up and keep going. Don't let nobody see
Absolutely.
you
I've
cry.
heard that
Don't let
so
nobody
many
see you
times.
sweat. Like that was the thing. That was the norm.
And I hate that because when you I ha- when you don't allow a child to express, they wind up suppressing.
Hmm.
And then when they suppress, it comes back into other
Yep.
relationships, like with their friends, with their teacher, even sometimes with their homework.
Yep.
Like you start being angry at the homework for expecting something of
Hmm.
you because you're holding so much.
Right. And a lot of behavior issues too that we see. People are like, oh, they're
Yeah.
just being bad. It's like, they're doing it for a reason. Right?
Yeah.
They're not
So
being seen or something.
what was the turning point for you in your childhood where you realized what your broken home, as you say, I can relate so much. What was the turning point where you knew it was a broken home and you wanted to still make it your print in the world, like in the household? Like you knew something had to change.
I didn't. Like, honestly,
Mm,
when
yeah.
I turned 18, I left.
Yep. Absolutely.
I left. I went to college. I actually did not move back to Houston until about 3 years ago. And so that was
Wow.
over 10 years I left.
Yeah. And within those 10 years, let me ask you a question. How was your life? Like, did you was it like you got to be completely yourself and you immediately was this good person?
No, no, absolutely.
Absolutely. So tell me about
So
your earlier
I was
years of when you
walking.
first moved out.
Okay. So I was walking around with anger for years and I couldn't tell you what it was, right? I just thought it was my norm. I actually had friends in like high school. One of my friends, she said, "You're angry," and I was like, "No, I'm not. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
angry." She's like, "I think you're really angry."
Yeah.
But when you're in that heat, you're not thinking about it. You don't want to hear that, right? And so I got to college, and I'm thinking like, okay, I'm gonna leave here. It's gonna be completely better. I saw myself looking for the what I didn't get from my mom and women,
Mm,
and also
absolutely.
partying. I was drinking every weekend.
Yep. I can
every
relate.
weekend,
Oh
like
my
bottles
gosh.
on bottles. We were throwing parties. We were everywhere,
Yeah.
right? Just doing whatever. I felt free. Like I didn't have anybody to answer to. It was just me. Of course, I stayed out of trouble as much as possible. That was always my forefront: stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
Have fun, but stay out of trouble. It wasn't until I met my wife. I originally met her in 2011,
Hmm.
but we started dating in 2015.
Okay.
And when she actually brought my family, and I told her I don't talk to them, and she was like,
Yeah.
"We got to fix this."
Wow. So when you turned 18, not only did you move away, you didn't speak to your parents. For how long did you not speak to your parents?
Uh, it was years. I actually, they would call me,
Hmm.
um, but sometimes I would come back just to
Yeah.
like the college kid need to wash my clothes and stuff. But it was no relationship. It was like all
So it
transactional.
wasn't.
It wasn't until my son was born actually
Oh,
that
wow.
my parents started to like, oh, like we have grandkids now.
You just said something pivotal because a lot of people, we think as long as we're talking to them when we need to wash our clothes, that's a relationship. But you realize it was transactional. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't actually like, oh, yeah, I'm having a relationship. We're great. You realize it was just transactional. And
Absolutely.
a lot of people don't have the words for that. They don't
Right.
know that it's transactional. They think that's a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So then they go recreate that in their romantic relationships because they think that superficialness is all they need.
And it's not. You need so much
Wow.
more than that.
Yeah. Wow. I love how you said that. And so when you had your son, what was different? Like, what made you want to develop a relationship with them?
At that point, I still didn't.
Okay.
At that point, it was like, okay, I'm a father now. Now I have to adjust. How do
Hmm.
I do this?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what's wrong? And for a while, I just went back to what I knew,
Yeah.
which is what I saw.
Absolutely.
And sometimes what you see isn't the right thing.
Yeah.
So it took years, even that maybe I think what Mason's 8 now. I think it was maybe like 3 or 4. I was like, something's not right.
Hmm.
And I was like, I have to figure out like why I'm acting the way I'm acting or reacting to things that I shouldn't react to that way.
Hmm.
And so it just took a lot of like self development and therapy. Once I got in therapy, my therapist was like, "Are you sure you're not gonna have a relationship with your mom?" I was like, "No." And he was just
Yeah.
like, "Don't God can do things." And I was like, I hear you."
Yeah.
And today our relationship is a lot better.
I love that. And it's interesting that you said it. You said it when we I always say this to my clients. We don't realize trauma isn't what happened to us. It's us becoming what we went through.
And the triggers that affect it.
Absolutely. So you said you were drinking and you were just like party and you were numbing. Was that what you saw growing up?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Hmm.
Drinking everywhere.
Yeah.
Every
So
weekend was like party time.
yeah. So you reenact what you saw. Now, around the time did you have your son, did you get sober? Were you able to recognize I have a problem? Maybe I should go lighter or completely at all.
So I didn't at first.
Okay.
I was still drinking. I was still smoking 5 blunts a day.
Okay.
Like I was like
So it was both.
I was
It was
floating.
yeah,
Right?
it was both.
And it wasn't for the drinking part of it. It wasn't until one of my homeboys died. It was a guy that I met at Grambling, and he was one of the ones I was drinking with all the time. Like we were partying, and it was a couple years ago actually. I don't know the exact number anymore because it's been a while, but he died from alcohol, like
Wow.
liver failure and stuff. And
So sorry
after
about
that,
that.
our whole friend group was like, "Nah,
Yeah, we
like
gotta
I'm
get
not doing it."
sober.
And I barely drink anymore. Like if date night, me and my wife go out, I'll have like a smoked old fashioned. That's it,
Yeah.
one or two.
But that was your wake up call.
That was my wake up call. Like
Wow.
and even I was selling weed at one point because
Wow.
I didn't have a job. We didn't have
Okay.
income coming in. I was selling weed. That was like 3 years ago.
Oh,
And
wow.
one day I looked at my daughter and I was like, it's not worth
This,
it.
yeah.
It's not worth it.
But it's funny how our brain goes to we need security.
Mm-hmm.
We need to look the part. So
Mhm.
regardless of how we get it, we just need to get it.
Right. But see, security can come, like you said, we see it and it's like, okay, I have to go get it. But it's like, security is a good thing. You need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But where you getting it from matters.
Yeah, it can't be security. It has to be security of your soul as well.
Can't just be your money.
Yeah,
'Cause
it
money
can't
comes and
just
goes.
exactly because I think that's the highest cost we can ever
Mhm.
get to. If we're just making money any kind of way and not caring about how we're getting it,
Mhm.
we wind up paying a cost in our mental health,
Absolutely.
spiritually.
Mhm.
We just it comes at a
Yeah.
cost.
And when you die, you can't take it with you.
Absolutely.
You
I'm
did
so
all that
glad
work for
that
no
you
reason.
said that. I'm so glad that you said that. And so you said your friend died, and that was a wake up call for you and your friend group. Now let me ask you a question. Did you have friends who were also from broken home and
It was a mixture.
yeah,
It was a
okay.
mixture. But I really boiled college down to a bunch of grown kids
Mhm.
who
100%.
were dealing with their own issues, their own traumas. We were all trauma bonding.
Absolutely, absolutely. I
We were
say
all
that
trauma
all
bonding.
the time. I feel like college was where you experimented with being an adult, but also
Mhm.
being an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Because the access to alcohol was so
Hmm.
widely spread and
Oh, we had it on
it was the
campus.
norm. Yeah.
Hmm.
And if you were a college student who said, "Oh yeah, I'm not gonna drink tonight," they're looking at you like, "What's wrong with you?" Like,
Hmm. Even out in the world, that's how people look, which is like weird. Like,
yeah.
oh, you don't drink? No. Like,
No.
you don't smoke or you don't eat pork or whatever. People call me a Muslim for like 6 years because it's like you
Yeah.
don't eat pork, and I was like, no, I haven't ate
No.
pork in 11 years now.
Yeah, I don't eat pork. I don't drink. I don't do any of those things. And what I've realized is not doing those things gave me back my life.
It did.
Because
Hmm.
that's what I was leading you to. Like, after you stopped drinking, did you realize the clarity in your mind?
Oh,
Like,
absolutely. Even with the pork, I felt my energy rise. With the alcohol,
yeah,
I had a liquor cabinet. It would felt like at a liquor store.
yeah.
And not having it, I open that cabinet and I'm like, oh, there's nothing in here. And just like not reaching for it, not trying to go get it just because it's a random Saturday or random Sunday and football's on,
Yeah.
and just kind of just doing other things, I definitely could see it input in my life better.
Yeah. And so so you went to college. Where did you go to college?
Grambling State.
Grambling.
The Grambling State, by the way.
Okay. I went to Southern, so
Oh,
careful.
boo.
Yeah, careful.
Why am I on this podcast?
Okay, so you went to Grambling and
Mhm.
immediately you graduated. Where did
Mhm.
you go after you graduated?
I actually went to Columbia, South Carolina, where I started my IT career at a Department of Mental Health.
Okay, okay. Now, so you got your degree and you went into IT tech. Tell me about that. How was your
So
experience?
when I got into tech, honestly, when I went to Grambling, I started off as a marketing major, and then but I've always liked technology.
Okay.
And so I was like, you know what? After my first semester, I said, let me go to IT. That's where the money is. I want to make like 100K. Like I just want to do these
Mm,
things, right? And so when I first got out of college, I didn't find a job like the first year,
absolutely.
and that post college depression hit.
Mhm.
Cause it's like I'm
I can
seeing
relate.
people getting all these like job offers, getting bonuses, and I'm over here still in the same city.
Mhm.
Like,
Yep.
what's happening?
Yep. That
and
happened to me
yeah,
too. That
and it
happened.
sucks because you don't realize you're just mad, but you don't realize it. And I think it's funny because the whole time I was in college, something kept pulling me towards psychology,
Yeah.
but I kept ignoring it because I was
Wow.
like, why am I going to go to psychology and start over?
Mhm.
And so for my first job to be the Department of Mental Health was like kind of
Yeah,
full
it
circle.
was full circle.
And so I did that for a year, and then I left there and I moved to Atlanta. And
Okay.
I lived in Atlanta for 6 years. My wife is actually from Atlanta,
Okay.
and so she graduated a year after me, and she wanted to start her teaching career there.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, I'll come there. And I started working at the city of Atlanta.
Mhm.
And so between those, IT was fun. Like I was like, okay, I'm gonna get up the ranks. I'm gonna make the money.
Mhm.
I've been in it for 10 years, and I finally hit 100K like at year 8 or 7.
Mhm.
And I said, what now?
Yeah.
And it felt so empty.
Let me ask you a question. Did you have a thought of why did they lie?
Who?
Like other people who've made the 100K and said their life is so great and they were so happy. Did you ever
Mm,
have that feeling of like,
at that
this
point,
ain't it?
yeah, at that point, I didn't really hear that much. I just knew that's where I
Yeah.
wanted to be.
Ah. Which brings me to what did the 100K actually stand for in you? Like, why did you want to make 100K?
Looking back, nothing. I just wanted to make the
Mm,
money. I just wanted to have the money so I can go buy the things and go travel the world. I still want to travel.
absolutely.
Don't get me wrong, but like I was just buying the things. Like I had all the new shoes. I had I had nice cars, house. Like I was trying to live the life.
Yeah, you're trying to live the life. For me, it was the same. I thought the more money I had made, the more
The happier.
security and happier I would
Hmm.
be. And I thought I would, once I looked the part, I would be the part.
Hmm. I was a broken kid with money.
Yes.
That's
And
really
I
what it
had
was.
all of these responsibilities, or people think it's responsibilities, but they were so boring. Like,
Hmm.
I'm working this job, I'm making all of this money, and I should be happy, but I felt so empty.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you could
Listen,
relate to
I
that.
can. I definitely can. When I hit
Yeah.
it, and I caught myself. Well, the first time I wasn't at 100K yet.
Hmm.
I was working with this small consulting company, so I was
Hmm.
traveling and helping like different municipalities install softwares and stuff. So I was enjoying it because I was getting all
Yeah.
kind of flight benefits, all kind of hotel
Absolutely. It
benefits,
comes with benefits, comes
and
with
I
perks.
had a, I had a trip. I had a trip, and one day God said, "Leave your job." So I said, "Huh?" So I text
Ooh.
my wife. I said, "I think I'm gonna leave my job." She was like, "No, wait till after the trip." And I'm just like, I'm with you. We diamond status and stuff. Like, I'm with you. But I was like, okay, I'll wait.
Yeah.
That voice kept knocking me.
Yep.
It turned from a whisper to a yell to a brick.
Yes,
And
literally.
it was like, quit. And that day I
Yeah.
said, I'm out.
And did anything happen at the job like
No,
that was wrong?
no, I just did not feel, I felt empty. Like, I feel like I wasn't supposed to be
Yeah.
there. Like, I was wasting my time.
Yep.
And so then I went through this whole like 18 months,
Yeah.
no income.
Yeah.
That was hard.
It was hard, but
I learned a lot. I
exactly.
learned a lot.
You
Learned a lot.
learned a lot, and I also feel like, so I did a similar thing. I was working corporate and did it for about 3 years,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden I started to realize I think there's a better way to doing this,
Mhm.
and this ain't it.
Right.
And then it was God basically saying, leave, there's more.
Mhm.
And for
I got you.
me, yeah. And I was like, okay, all right.
Like, let's do
But I
it.
was also being kind of like in a situation where micromanaging was happening. I've always been extremely good at my job.
Right.
And so with that being said, everybody wants to still be on you because that's their role.
They
They're in
feel like they have to
character.
be. But I was like,
Exactly.
your employees get more work done when they're not worried about you.
Absolutely. And so when he said leave, I was like, all right, cool. I ain't got nobody gonna be breathing on my neck.
Mhm.
But what I didn't know was that that was gonna be, everybody was gonna see me as a failure. And I
Right.
started to see myself as a failure.
Yeah. So you got to be careful who you talk to, especially when you're going through that.
Yeah.
Because that first time he told me to leave, I left, and he said, "Now go read Job." Like, I said,
Ooh.
whoa, wait, what?
Ooh.
So I'm going through Job. I'm like, are you sure?
Yeah.
like, hold on. I know it comes back, but I got to go through this part first. And he was like,
Yeah.
yeah. And it was 18 months, and I ended up getting another job,
Yeah.
100K.
Wow.
The whole time I was sitting there, the 18 months, I said, man, if I just get a contract job and I make 100K, I
Wow.
kept saying, I said, I need 1 year at 100K. And I finally got it.
So it's so funny how God repositioned you.
Hmm.
He essentially was like, and was this all in Atlanta?
No.
Okay, so Atlanta
So
and
actually,
then
those were remote jobs. So I've been
remote
remote
jobs.
before COVID,
Okay,
where I was.
awesome.
And then when I got that job, and I was like, okay, I finally made it. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, God, this really ain't it,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm going through it. He said, now leave.
Yeah.
Like, I gave it to you and showed you that you can have it and still not
Feel-
feel fulfilled,
yeah.
right? And so like now podcasting and speaking and just talking to people,
Yeah.
I,
But it was,
fulfilling.
but I want to take you, I want to ask you something. How, so when you didn't have the 100K in between those 18 months, how was your mental health then? Like, tell me about those days. Tell
It
me
was
about what you
rocky.
did.
It was rocky,
Yeah.
but it was also very developmental.
Yes, tell me about the development.
During that time, I got baptized.
Okay.
I
Okay.
took a faith trip to Atlanta for a conference, which
Okay.
turned out to be one of the biggest blessings.
Yeah.
I lost my mind a couple times because there's a lot of tears. There was a lot of like, my kids were coming home from school and the lights were out.
Yeah.
Water wasn't turned on. I'm like scrapping money together before they get home to pay it. So that way, by the time they get
Yes.
home, they can just feel normal, right?
Yeah.
There's nights I didn't eat because I made sure my kids ate.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
There were nights where I just kind of was like I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Right. And my wife was still working for a while. God told her to leave too.
Wow. And then people don't realize that when this happened, you're like, you can't listen to the logic because
Can't.
there's something pulling you
Mhm.
that's having you step out on faith.
Mhm.
And in that time, it happened to me twice now, and twice for you as well.
Yep.
And when you have to step out on faith, you don't have all the money. But you know what I've realized? The money that came from those jobs, they weren't actually the money that was for you.
Mm-mm.
It was kind of just like you were in a job and they gave you all of these things. They gave you a house, they gave you lights, they gave you food. But until you realize how you make your money is what you actually should build upon, you're building on quicksand.
Yeah. You should really build upon yourself,
Yes.
and everything else will come to you.
And also build on God, build
Mhm.
with him. Because I feel like the ultimate glow up, I would say, is co-creating with God.
It is.
Like
It's
it's
fun, though.
literally when you get to a space where you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. And then
Mhm.
God brings you that 3 in the morning and you're like,
That's
oh,
how.
and it
Mhm.
feels lighter. It doesn't come with sorrow.
Then he brings you people too.
Exactly. He
people who
brings you
push you to the next level.
connections. He
Mhm.
brings you so much that you never thought you needed, but it wind up making you feel fulfilled.
And sometimes he'll tell you where you're going well before you get there.
Oh, absolutely.
I was
Oh,
told to start a
absolutely.
podcast, and I'm just like, okay, why am I starting a podcast? Like, who wants to hear me talk, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm visioning like I'm gonna be in a studio, I'm gonna have a team, like it's
Mhm.
gonna be great. I'm about to be rich, right? My first episode was on Zoom, and I had a white wall behind me,
Yep.
and it was me, and I had a co-host. I kept putting it off for a while, and I said a lot of times we think that we need somebody to do something,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like we got God,
We got God.
so you don't need anybody else.
Absolutely.
And so I kept like hitting people up, hey, come on my podcast with me, come on my podcast with me.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, oh, okay. And then they go silent.
Yep.
All right, cool. I ended up meeting this dude. We were doing community service together, and we just ended up talking about like blackhood, like black manhood and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And we realized like he had half of a podcast, I had the other half. And I was like, we could just put these together
Alignment.
and let's go. So we get running. Like we're going. We have
Mhm.
12 episodes and we sit down. It's like September, October. And I said, okay, the holidays are coming up.
Yeah.
You got kids, I got kids.
Yeah.
Let's
We gotta
grind
make-
this out now. So when Thanksgiving and Christmas come, we don't have to record anything. We sat there for 2 hours recording. We're not recording, planning.
Absolutely.
He disappeared the next day.
Whoa.
The next day.
Oh.
And I was sitting there and I was just like calling him. I was like, okay, he normally answers. Like he know we're supposed to talk by
Yeah.
now. And the last episode we did, actually, he was in a hotel room and we were talking and you see this shadow hit the back of the wall. And I'm just like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
come on. Like you
What's
have
going
to
on?
step up and like not, it has to look good, especially with it being remote.
Absolutely.
And so he disappeared. He left. My first time talking to him was like a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And through that time, mind you, I'm still like, house is getting foreclosed. Well, they're threatening foreclosure.
And what was your thoughts
that.
like? Because that was clearly like something that was traumatic.
Mhm.
You're going through something that you never thought. You thought you could count on someone, and they disappear. How did you pivot? Like in that moment, what were you feeling, and how did you pivot from
Well, one, it actually showed me an issue I had
that? Mm.
because I always would see people come in my life and I'd be like, okay, when you leaving? Even my wife. It was we've been next month would make 8 years. At year like 4 or 5, I was like, "You're still here?" Like it was a shock to me.
Yeah.
Like you're still around, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm not going anywhere." I'm like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool." And
that stemmed from your childhood.
yeah, subconsciously it was still happening. So when that happened, I was just like, "Okay, I kind of expected it." But I did hit a space like, "Okay, God, like you told me to do this, and you took away my partner. Like, how am I supposed to do this?" And I kid you not, God talks to me in parables, like movies, other podcasts, people, and somehow my wife texted me and she was like, "You need to go watch B. Simone's podcast she did with Stormy." And I was like, "Okay," because we like Love and Marriage,
Mhm.
Huntsville. And I was like, I'm going to watch it. And I'm going through it. I'm like, okay, just talking to her about it. And B. Simone looks at the camera and she was just like, because, around that time too, she had just got done with her podcast with Megan Ashley.
Uh-huh.
So she had separated. And so she was just like, you don't need anybody. You got this. Like looking in the camera, and I felt like she was looking at me.
Mm.
And by the time she finished talking, I said, God, you're my co-host.
Yep. You
And
got
so I
this.
rebranded and I was still doing remote. Didn't really like it. I was like, come on, God, like something has to pop, right? Like I get letters from the mortgage company, like, oh, we're about to foreclose. I'm getting debt callers like, hey, you need to pay this. And I'm like, I can't. Like, I wish I
Yeah.
could, but I can't. And so but I'm still pushing out episodes. I'm still meeting people. Talia was on one of them. And then I was like, okay, this still doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Like it still doesn't. So I stopped doing it again. And I really sat down with God and I focused on myself a lot. Now I'm in the studio. Now I have a team.
Absolutely. So it's funny. It's like when you stretch your faith muscle, God met you, but it wasn't until you developed the character to hold what
Right.
he was trying to give you.
Exactly.
Like you saw that? Like
Mm-hmm.
you literally, he was stretching your faith muscle. He was like, all right, I'm telling you this is gonna be what it is, but are you gonna trust me in the process?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you gonna go back? Did you have the urge to get a job during that time?
I tried.
Yep, absolutely. We
tried.
always try. We
I
always
tried.
try because we come kicking and
Yeah.
screaming. We're like,
Yep.
I'm not. This isn't what I'm used to.
I said, God, you could have left me in Georgia for all this.
Yeah,
Like,
because
you
then
brought
he
me
also
home.
brought you back home.
He brought me back home. Right. He brought me back home, and
Wow.
then all that started.
So tell me about the experience of you were living in Atlanta, you were working in tech, you had already left tech, and then you got a contract job of 100K,
Mm-hmm.
and then he brought you back home.
He brought me back home before the 100K.
Okay.
Actually.
Wow.
And so
tell me about that.
when I came back here, Houston, I was making 65,000 a year.
Okay.
At my consulting job. That's when I was traveling around with. And so we moved back. I remember 2 or 3 years before we moved, I told my wife, I said, we're going to Houston. She was like, no, we're not. I was just like, we're going.
Yep.
And I kept prepping her. And I peeped. What he does is he'll tell me first to tell her. And then I have to like keep saying it up, keep bringing it up before it happens. So by the time it happens, she's like, okay, I knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
So that was the process. And the last year, she was like, I'm not leaving. I was like, I'm going. So either you coming or you're not.
Because you felt that nudge.
Mm-hmm. And she came. So we lived in my mom's house. And we were supposed to stay there for a year, just to like find a house and everything. And as an adult, if you move back in your parents' house, you already know.
Oh,
like,
yes.
It didn't go well.
No.
So we left that house and bought a house, brand, nice house. Got this mortgage, we're paying the mortgage, and God says, leave your job again. And I'm like,
and it's and
"Why?"
and now I want to break this down for people who's listening because they're probably saying, okay, how did God say leave your job? Like you need a job to pay your bills. That's how people think.
It is.
But you're saying that you felt it in your spirit that you couldn't stay at this job. Tell me how that felt.
It felt when God wants to remove you from somewhere, He makes you uncomfortable. And nothing really happened, honestly. I just I don't want to be in these meetings.
Did you
don't
feel
wanna
like
keep
there was
talking
more?
to these people. Yeah, like I could be doing more than just sitting behind my computer desk. Because I'll be done my work by 10 o'clock and then be playing games all day.
Absolutely.
Right? I could do all these other things. I'm like, I'm not really making any impact here.
Yes,
Right?
and you said it on the nail. When you're not making impact and you know you're here for a big purpose, that's when that nudge gets louder and louder, and you're just like, oh, okay, so you want me to get from behind the scenes in front of the scenes.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
When I made this joke yesterday when we were recording my show, my guest, he didn't know I was in the room when he first came in. And I was like, yeah, I said, I used to go by Batman because nobody could hear me come in the room, or I could just be in the room and nobody knew I was there. I just love to be in the background.
Yeah.
But now it's like, you got to come to the front.
You got to
Like,
come to the front.
Yeah. I gotta be where? But it just felt uncomfortable. And then when I left, it was like, okay. But mind you, this is like my first time really like sitting with him and saying like, all right, what do you have for me?
Yeah. Now let me ask you a question. Have you been, when things happen to you, have you been portrayed a lot in your life?
Oh, absolutely.
Tell me about an instance where you were portrayed and you didn't think you would make it through.
I'll go back to childhood. Just like the abandonment and stuff. It felt like betrayal. Like I used to tell God all the time, like, man, I used to say all the time, honestly, just I used to see as a kid, like especially like high school, I was doing sports, football, and I'm seeing my friends' parents pull up every game. Senior night, they're on the field with them. I'm on the field by myself. But I look back and I see when I was my son's age, going to my brother's games, every game.
Exactly.
So I saw that and I expected that.
Yeah.
So I felt betrayed. I felt like, okay, y'all don't care about me.
Yeah.
Like I don't even need to be part of this family. So I always say like, I got the worst family in the world. Like I hate them.
Yep. But I asked that question because what I've come to realize coming back home, so God also brought me back home, all of the betrayal I went through, I still didn't change in my heart. I didn't do the same thing that was being done to me. I remained pure. And when I remained pure, I was able to navigate different things that other people would have died. But I leaned on, no, I'm not going to do the same thing that's being done to me.
Right.
And I feel like I asked that because I feel like that's the people that God uses for
Hmm.
impact. And
There's
he
always one in the
seeks,
family.
exactly, he
There's a
seeks
black sheep
those,
somewhere in the family.
yeah. And he seeks those people with good hearts.
Hmm.
And it's so the reason why you can't be in the background because he's like, no, it's your heart that I want to put on display. I
Hmm.
need more people like you, you
Hmm.
know? But it isn't until you step into what he calls you to do, and you have to step into a
It's
job.
hard to
You
say
have to
yes.
step away from the job to say yes to God because
Sometimes.
we either serve man or we serve God.
Hmm.
And a lot of people don't realize there's a fine line.
But it's to teach you to rely on him. It's to
Exactly.
teach you to rely on him. There was a time, and you asked me like, how did it feel? It's like I just knew it. Like something
Mhm.
just, I can always feel things, right?
Mhm.
And so I just knew it's like it was time to go. Like I told
Absolutely.
the people when my wife was pregnant with my daughter, I told them at 3 months that she was a girl,
Yep.
and everybody looked at me like, huh?
How did you know that? How
Like I
did
was
you
just
know
like,
that?
I feel it. Like she's a girl. The day she was born, I told my wife, I said we need to prepare because she's gonna be born tonight, and she was born that night. Like
Wow.
I just know, I just feel it.
Yeah.
And even when that instance where I did try to go back and find a job,
Mhm.
I was putting in applications. I was going.
Mhm.
I was like, I'm gonna
Yep.
get
I
me a
did the
job.
same. I did the
And I
same.
kid you not, I heard right in this ear right here it said, "Stop applying."
Yeah.
And I just closed the computer. I said, "Dang it!"
Dang it. I'm trying to survive here. You
Trying to
know, I
make it
got all
happen.
these voices in my head
Hmm.
saying, how dare you not work? So for me, I don't know about you, but I started working at age 14.
I was like 15.
Yeah, so 14 all the way up until age 29, I was Miss Worker Bee. I always had a job. Anybody needed something extra, I got them because I
Yeah.
was always working, if not one job, but two jobs.
Right.
And so when God told me to quit a job and I had an apartment, I had a car, I was like, ain't no way. Who gonna take care of me? These people don't like me like that.
Exactly. Exactly. I had a brand new mortgage when he said it, and I was like, God, you tripping.
Yeah. But in that moment was how I learned interdependency and I learned intimacy with God. I learned that there are things, and I'm not saying this makes people shy away from responsibilities.
Right.
No. When you're building something, it's okay to not have all the things you need
Absolutely.
because God will provide you with what you need for what He wants you to build.
Oh, yeah. And to your point, I just had talked about this
Yeah.
yesterday. A lot of us, even me, when I first started, I wanted the things. I was supposed to have this. I was supposed to have that. I was spending money on cameras and stuff, and I was like, I really didn't need all this.
No,
You
you
don't. You
didn't.
really don't. Even with my guest yesterday, he told me he was like, man, I make a lot of money, and he said this is all I do. He said I don't have a
Yeah.
website. I don't have none of this stuff. And he was like, you don't need all of it.
But I want to ask you if, well, even talking to him, you know, he didn't start off that way.
Oh no.
It was a building.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I kind of want to get into. A lot of people think that when you decide to be an entrepreneur, it's just like this quick.
No, absolutely
You make 10K months.
not. Mm-hmm.
No.
And I say, building a business, you really start at the point where you think I'm gonna start a business.
Yes.
That's when your business starts because you're
Yes.
starting to build it at that point.
Absolutely.
And you got to get to these phases. There's steps. There's steps. You got to get to the end of that corner and turn that corner to see what's next
Absolutely.
because you don't really know what's next. You're learning.
Yeah.
And so, like people like, go get an LLC. Go get all this.
Mm-hmm.
You can make all this money. It's like, you got to market.
Mm-hmm.
You got to build yourself up to
And then you
handle
also have
it.
to have the confidence
The
to
confidence.
step into those
Exactly.
things that you need for your business.
And you got to want something. You got to have something people want to spend money on.
Yeah. And it is leading me to this question I want to ask you. Did anybody you know growing up doing what you're doing now?
Oh no. Everybody had 9 to 5s, but as a kid though, I always knew I was gonna be an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
I always said it. I thought I was gonna be a chef for a while, and I still
Mhm.
love to cook. That's
Mhm.
that is my therapy
Okay.
right there, right? But I just always knew I was gonna have businesses.
Yeah. But that was something you had in the back of your head. Like you knew you were going to do that. But some people, they think the 9 to 5 is just all that they have. And I knew
Mhm.
growing up, the 9 to 5 was all that I saw. So I expected. So graduated college, I got the 9 to 5. But that's why I asked you that question. Did you feel like they lied to you? Because when I was in the 9 to 5 and I was in the apartment, I wind up
American dream.
crying. Yeah, the American dream. I wind up crying, saying, I don't have a couch. Oh my gosh, I don't have a couch. But really, what I was saying is, this role isn't fulfilling. I
Mm-mm.
feel like I'm slowly dying. Imani, that who I feel like is the back in my head, she's not speaking right now. Like, she's not here.
It's everybody else's voice.
Yeah,
We a lot of we don't realize that our body picks up stuff even when we're not paying attention to it.
absolutely.
If you're in a room, your subconscious caught everything in that room. You
Absolutely.
may not have caught it, like your conscious may have caught it, but your subconscious sees it. Your ears hear it, and your body's processing it every time, every second.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I have to link this for you. Why do you think you got into tech from your childhood? Like, what drew you to tech?
I would say the money, really.
Okay.
But I've always liked computers. They always like
Mm-hmm.
interest me. Game systems, like just technologies, always interest me. I wanted the like latest and greatest all the time. Right? I was getting new iPhones every month,
Absolutely.
every year. And even now, I'm like, all right, 3-4 years before I get another one, because you don't need it, right?
You don't
But
need
it
it.
was just that and just the pursuit of money. Like I
Yep.
wanted money because
Absolutely.
as a kid, like I would ask my parents for stuff and it would be like, oh, I don't have it.
There you go. And that's what I wanted to bring you.
Hmm.
A lot of us don't realize that we think money is our security, but it's actually what can slowly kill us. If God said He won't give you too much, that will crush your spirit. And when we shoot up from 18, maybe like 23, how old were you when you started your first tech job?
23.
23. 23, we making all of this money, but we don't even know
What to do with
who
it?
we actually are at that point.
Don't know what to do with it, who we are. No, I got money.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that. I'm not saying, oh, okay, don't get a job, right outside of college, but what I'm saying is it's okay for humble beginnings until you figure out who you truly are. And I think that should be taught in schools, because a lot of us, we get out of high school and we go straight to college, but we don't even have a full plan of.
Mm-mm.
For me, I stepped into nursing. I didn't want to deal with blood. Like, that's not me at all.
It just sounded good.
It sounded good. It's something I said when I was 5 years old.
Mm.
And it wasn't until I gave myself permission to explore, what do I naturally want to solve, that I stepped into psychology. Because as a child, I always wanted to know the why. I always was like, why did this happen? Like, why did he react this way? Why did she react this way? And it led me to psychology, but it wasn't until I gave myself permission to say nursing wasn't for me.
Right.
So did you have any moments like that with tech where you realized tech was strictly for the money and not actually for your soul?
During my last contract, actually,
Tell me about it.
we were having like 4 meetings a week. And
Mhm.
I would get in these meetings and we'd be talking about the same thing.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, why is this not solved already? Like, the answer is simple.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there and I was just like, I'm only doing this for the money. Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather be building my business right now.
Yep.
Like, I'd rather be networking, finding a podcast guest. Like, that time I was still remote. And I was like, I'd rather just be doing all these other things than do this.
Because ultimately what you were saying is you rather connection.
Mm-hmm.
You rather serve people individually instead of serving through a computer technology program that doesn't say your name. When you die, if you was to live with this technology, will it say, oh, he impacted?
Right. They won't.
It won't.
The only thing my name is on is my notes that are in the system.
Exactly.
In
Exactly.
the next year, probably even now, they're not looking at that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was
And
just a
so,
contractor they paid.
exactly. And so when you come to this conclusion of this isn't it, like I need to pivot. And so now you're a health coach.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how it feels to be able to have that connection with people and help them with their goals and help them with something you've already mastered, because that's what coaches are.
Right. So when I started this whole journey, I was like, go be a speaker. And I was like, speaking, like I don't like talking to people.
Yeah,
Like, what you
that's a
mean?
muscle.
And it's something you really have to practice. Communication is a
Absolutely.
skill.
It is. It truly
And
is.
so I was doing all the things, and I was just like, I'm not really ready for this yet.
Yeah.
But then he was like, I kept seeing coaching come up.
Yeah.
And so I got into a health coach program.
Okay.
I actually graduated last July. No,
Okay.
2 years ago. And I I was like, okay, this is it. Like
Yeah.
I was meeting people around the world in our coaching calls.
Ooh.
Like we were connecting, we were
Yep.
just having conversations. Even to this day, we still talk
Yep.
randomly. And just being in this space and like really paying attention to it. And that's why I decided to focus on Black men mental health wellness, because I was like, we don't talk about it that much.
Yeah.
It's a need. And I say, if you really go back to what I told you earlier, my first job out of college was at the Department of Mental Health,
Yep.
and I was getting pulled to psychology. So full circle, I'm
Yep.
back,
Full circle.
right? And so just I've been meeting some dope people,
Yeah.
honestly.
And it's so interesting that you said it. It's like when you step out of alignment. So at the tech job, was you meeting people from all over the world?
No, I was seeing the same people every day, talking about the same things every week.
Exactly. So when you stepped away from the job and you literally were at your home, God brought you the world to you.
Mhm.
He brought you connection. He brought you all the people that you were meant to impact, but you had to step away from not being able to be on the front line, as we should say.
Right.
Because that's literally what it
Mhm.
is. Being a coach is like being on the front line and saying, okay, I've been through some things. I can help you.
Right.
And I've got the certification because I know you need that. Let me help you.
Mhm.
You know?
And it's like a level of trying to like show people like there's more for you. And I can even going back to myself, I'm like, I'm not paying for no coaching or mentor, but that's really important.
Yeah.
Like I spent a lot of money on coaching and mentorship, and when I tell you the fruit is fruiting,
Absolutely.
I'm happy I did it.
And I'm sure you can relate that your mornings and your days became more intentional with you building your business.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When I was living in Atlanta, I was driving about 45 minutes to work every day. So I
was
was,
driving
and my
30.
son was in daycare at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like getting up, getting him ready, taking him to school. You know, I'm getting ready, of course, too. Then driving 45 minutes to work
Yep.
at a place I really don't want to be at. And on top of that, I had to pay to park.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, because Houston, everything is pay to
Oh
park.
no, that was in Atlanta.
Oh, Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
So Atlanta is pay to park as well
Then
everywhere.
down there, downtown,
Oh,
absolutely.
wow.
I'm tending that's 45 minutes back, going to go deal with people I didn't want to deal with, and then 45 minutes back home.
And it took away all of, I feel like when we're driving to work, we're commuting, because I was doing the same thing, 30 minutes all the way to Katy.
That's a drive.
I feel like my life was so fast paced that I couldn't enjoy any small moment because I was just like on the schedule of someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever feel that same way?
Yeah, I was getting up, going to work. I was coming home, cooking dinner, and like I was so worn out by the end of the day that my children weren't getting my time. And as a father, like your presence is the most important thing above the job, above the money. And I said that one of the stigmas that as Black men or as men in general that we have is to provide means to provide money all the time. But that's not the case.
Talk about it.
Because I can provide emotional intelligence. I can provide support, love, just time. My kids like to spend time with me.
But I'm going to stop you real quick. Was emotional intelligence taught at the job, or was it just like a pat on the back if you showed up?
Oh, there was no pat on the back, no nothing.
No, nothing.
They actually got mad at me one day because, and I've always been the person, like my dad worked, like to this day, work. And so I knew what it felt like to be the kid in the house where your father isn't there because he's working, he's doing what he's supposed to do, or he feels like he's supposed to do what he learned. So back then I was mad at him. Now I understand it. Right?
Absolutely. As you get older, you realize like, oh, you were doing the best you could.
Exactly. And so when I always said when I have kids, I would not be like that because I knew I needed to be home. And that was no slug at him, of course. I just knew I needed to be home. And so I started setting boundaries. And, you know, when you set boundaries, people have issues.
Oh, they have so many issues. They're like, how dare she think she's better?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Exactly.
She's trying to become something?
Exactly.
Oh, no.
I remember one day I was at home and I got an email at like 6 o'clock p.m. I get off at 5. And the next morning, it was like 8 o'clock. I was like 8:20. And it was like, why haven't you answered this? I was like, I just got here like 20 minutes ago. Can I, well, you got this last night. I was at home with my family. Like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And literally they went and told him like, oh, he doesn't want to do his work. I said, what? That's crazy. And so I was like, my mornings now, I don't have to worry about anybody.
Yep. Which brings me to what it's all about. When you build your business brick by brick, or when you build something for God, you essentially get back you.
Your health.
And
everything.
when you get back you can serve those people that are stewarded to you, your family, your communities. But when you're in someone else's system, and I'm not saying all systems we're not put into places to make them better, right?
Right.
But when it takes away from you serving your family, that's when it becomes a problem.
Mhm.
If you're serving your job more than you're serving your family that God gave you, you asked for, you prayed for, you put in work to get there, that's when it becomes a problem of, am I living for security or am I living in alignment with what God has for me?
Yeah. And at that time, I wasn't even really focused on God, honestly.
Mm.
It was at that point he hadn't called me yet,
Yeah.
so I didn't know. I didn't go to church growing up, right?
Yeah.
We weren't really heavy on faith. I really just found out why my mom didn't want to go to church, and my dad was just like Easter only, right?
Yeah.
And so
So
I
you
didn't
already have
have
the
that
presence.
relationship,
Yeah.
right? But now, like I'm teaching my kids, I put Bible scriptures everywhere in the house. My son gets excited when he sees them now. And every morning, 4:30 in the morning, I'm up. I'm like, I take my dogs outside and I sit out there, and it's so quiet.
Yep.
All I hear is birds chirping or whatever is going on, and I'm just talking to him. I'm like, all right, like it's me and you right now. What's
But
up?
you had to build that relationship
Mhm.
because I know coming from not going to church and to stepping into church, there was a disconnect. So what made you want to go to church?
I was actually watching, like I said, God talks to me in parables, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when he wants me to watch a movie, he'll continue to put it in my face. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I keep seeing that, and then my interest gets peaked. So this one was The Pursuit of Happiness
Okay, I love that movie.
while I was going through my Job season, right?
Wow. Okay.
And so I'm watching, I was just like, God, I really don't care for this movie. Like, I've seen it before. So he's like, watch it. All right, cool. Turned it on, and I'm watching him go through it, and I'm like, I'm relating to this so much more now. And I get to the part where he's in church and you can see the hope hit him. He starts crying and stuff. I just start bawling. I start
Yeah.
crying. I'm like, I don't even cry, God. But I later learned like crying is actually healthy for you.
Yeah,
Because when you
absolutely.
cry, you're releasing stress
suppressed.
hormones.
Yep.
And so there's stress hormones in your tears actually. And so I walked out the room. I told my wife, I said, we going to church. She looked at me like, huh? I've been trying to get you to church for years. Like, what?
It was a movie.
Mhm.
Wow.
And so we started going, and it was just that was building the faith. I serve heavy now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on a sabbatical right now though, but it's that's important too. Take a break.
Yep.
Even when you're serving,
Absolutely.
and it just grew. There was times where I would get up, and 4 o'clock in the morning, I would get up and just go to the gym, right? But I will be on my phone in the sauna reading the Bible and stuff. That's how it started. And then I was like, okay, am I really just doing this because I'm trying to build the relationship, or I'm doing this to check a box?
Oh, checklist.
And so I was checking 2 boxes by 6 a.m. every morning.
And I think a lot of people have that story of they think going to church on Sunday and reading the Bible for Bible study is enough.
Mm-mm.
But it's not until you look for him in the everyday, in the little moments, that you can start building that intimacy.
Romans 12:2 says, renew your mind every day.
Yes.
Daily.
I kind of want to bring it back for a second. You didn't feel a need until he sat you down.
Mm-hmm.
Until you were in a Job season, until he took everything away, was when you finally went to him.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine, I have this letter is, we are not created. We are not imagined. We are created.
Absolutely.
So God literally created us for such a time as this. And he goes, I said this with a friend one time. He says, when you go in the world, don't forget me. But
Right.
then somehow when we get in the world, we forget him.
Oh yeah.
And so then literally he has to sit us down. And when
Mhm.
he sits us down,
Isolate you.
we finally say, okay, what is it that you want?
Mm-hmm.
And in that
taking
moment,
stuff from you.
yeah,
People
when
too.
he starts taking, and I think a lot of people don't realize the burnout is telling you something.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you were in tech, I'm sure you were like, okay, this ain't it.
Mm-hmm. I
What
was burnt out.
is? And I'm sure in the back of your head, you were like, I think I need to lean into something else.
Mm-hmm. I said, there's something else for me.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but there's something else for me.
Yeah.
And that's where I got led to. And I'm still there. But I have
love that
way
so
more
much.
fun now than I did working in tech.
Absolutely.
But I can still use my tech skill to incorporate what I'm doing too.
Absolutely, which I'm bringing it there. Now let me ask you a question. If a man was watching this today, what would you tell him if he's burnt out from a job and he feels like there's something more? What do you wish you could have told yourself in that moment?
There is more.
Mm-hmm.
You're not tripping. Like you're not confused. Like you're not delusional. Like there is more. If you you're unsatisfied with where you are, that means it's time for you to move.
Mm,
If you're supposed to stay there, it'd be comfortable for you, but
absolutely.
it's not. You know, there's more for yourself. Take time for yourself,
Mm,
heal yourself, really get deep into those wounds, and really just self care.
yeah.
Right? We look at our way of life and say like, okay, you know, we as color, we don't do that. They do that. Like
Yeah.
that's their stuff. We don't do that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, enjoy the world in
So you
all
would
aspects.
say prioritize you for
Prioritize you
once.
for sure.
Because I feel like a lot of us, we never prioritize
Mm-mm.
us. We're always working for other people and we're working to look the part, but internally we're dying.
That's for parents too.
But I got to bring you, oh, absolutely. It's all people. Like
Hmm.
we all are, we get so busy trying to build a life that we never
Hmm.
prioritize we're in the life as well. Like the
Yeah.
life centers around what how we treat ourselves.
Hmm.
I always tell my client is how you treat yourself is how you teach others how to love yourself.
Absolutely.
How to love you.
You set the standard for your life.
Exactly. And so I gotta bring it here though, because a lot of men they would say, okay, yeah, you're saying listen, but then shame comes up. So what advice would you tell them if shame came up with them feeling like they need to quit their job?
Let the emotion ride.
Mm.
I think a lot of times as men, especially like us in like 30 plus, right? We're all taught suck it up, like just keep going no matter
Mhm.
what. Like you can't have emotions, you can't be human. Like, you know, just do it, be a robot. But feel it because you're feeling it for a reason.
Absolutely.
And it's not gonna go away until you process it. Because it doesn't get easier, but you get better at it. But you have to get it has become a norm.
Because, like you said, when we cry, we suppress. I mean, we're not no longer suppressing, we're allowing ourselves to express. And I feel like our tears are always notions to where we should be or like how we connect. Because I don't know about you, but after I cry, I feel so much lighter.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like my heart is just like,
Yeah.
oh, thank
That's
God,
those
you
stress
know?
hormones leaving your body. There's literally a
Yeah.
science that said there's stress hormones in your tears.
I love that. I love
And so
that.
you're releasing it, right? And then you feel lighter. You're like, okay. But
Yep.
you just have to listen, look for the signs because there are signs.
Yeah.
And it could be the littlest thing. It could be a conversation. It could be something you watched. But you really have to just be in tune with yourself. So it really starts with like building yourself up
Yep.
and learning to sit in silence.
Yeah, for me it was discipline. So when I gave up alcohol, then I finally realized where my time was going. And when I realized where my time was going, I could now schedule it for the things that I wanted to become. But it wasn't until I said, okay, I hate my life. What do I like about myself? What do I like?
Hmm.
So that I could build upon that. And then that's when God was like, oh, she getting it, y'all. She
You gotta
getting
try
it.
new
She
hobbies too to
getting it.
open your mind.
Yeah, she
Hmm.
getting it. And so when you allow yourself to feel, as you say, the
Hmm.
emotions to rise up, truth comes about.
Yeah, because you're able to process it.
Exactly. Which brings me to this last thing. You left tech, but now you are surrounded by tech and you have
Right.
this opportunity to be a coach. Have you have you ever thought about this tech world wasn't actually the problem?
Hmm. I think there's layers to tech.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Talk
but
about it.
because it's tech like this,
Mm-hmm.
but there's like projects and like security and like all these different avenues. And so I was doing projects. I
Mm-hmm.
was always on projects doing the same work over and over and over. And there was a season where I was Ubering. And
Mm-hmm.
I met a guy. I picked him up. He was actually from Canada, but his job would make him come to Houston for a job, and he was in tech. So
Okay.
we had like a 45-minute ride, and we talked about like the issues with tech and like the hiring process and stuff now and how hard it is. Like I had somebody tell me it was like applying for a job is an 8-hour job. Like you have to do it all day, every day, and
Mm-hmm.
spend at least an hour on each application. I said absolutely not.
Yeah, no.
And he told me he's like, yeah, what your experience is normal. I said
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Wow. So now you realize the contrast,
Hmm.
and your lives are like you was telling me the other day. You can go outside and be with your dogs in nature.
Hmm.
In
Hmm.
tech, you didn't prioritize that. You
Yep.
couldn't do that.
It was up and go.
And so when you left security, you allowed yourself to be,
Hmm.
and then you got aligned with who you actually were supposed to be all along.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Now my days consist of me. Like I said, 4:30 in the morning, I'm up. I go outside with my dogs and I just sit there for about 45 minutes. And I go in there, I make me and my wife our coffee. I wake her up and say, okay, it's time to read the Bible. It's time to study. And how that happened was crazy. I got up by myself one morning and I was right in and I heard something say, go wake her up. And I was like,
Ooh.
oh, okay. So I walked
Mm-hmm.
in there, I said, God said, get up. And she looked at me like, huh? And I said, God said, get up. And from that day, though, she laughed it off and she was like, okay. And every morning she's been getting up with me. And so our
Yeah.
days start, and that's before the kids get up.
Absolutely. Wow, I love that. Because you essentially listen to the nudge.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure reading the Bible in the morning, I read the Bible every morning as well. It gives me back so much. Like it grounds me in the
Mm-hmm.
morning. When I start with a word, and it's kind of funny, God be sending me words that I need for that day. But it wasn't until I started stretching that faith muscle of like and hearing from him that I actually know, oh, he's preparing me for something.
Something's happening.
Something's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in my word, that's essentially his evidence of something's about to happen. I want to
Right.
prepare you for it because you're my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Read this.
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it so
It does that.
beautiful? But when we're in these worlds where we're not supposed to be, it
We're distracted.
quiets God's voice.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't quiet his voice.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Because he probably
everything
be yelling.
everything he doesn't yell. He doesn't fight.
Okay.
He's not the one that's going to sit in the back and say, I'm right here.
Yeah.
He's going to talk to you. But if your surrounding is too loud, you're not going to hear him. It's like going to, like, I say I hate going to like brunch spots and stuff now because the music be so loud you can't even
Yeah,
have a
me too.
conversation. Like that's literally the world.
Yeah.
And so you have to have that quiet time, that
Mhm.
peace. Because like I told you the other day, I remember I told you, I said, man, like it started early this morning,
Yep.
but I said, nope, I'm not going to let it anger me. I'm about to just go do my morning routine with God. And when I came back to it, I was able to solve it.
And there it is. That's such a, people think that's a little win, but that's actually a big win.
Yeah, it's the
Because
little
what I
wins.
realize is the world, a lot of us aren't in solution based because we're so busy sitting in the problem and the problem is normalized. And so being able to go to God or go outside and figuring out the solution, that's a huge win.
It
Like
is.
that's
And
huge.
see, we as people, social media has ruined a lot of people, honestly. And it really depends. It's like anything, how you use it, right?
Mhm.
But a lot of people want like the big wins because that's what they see online.
Absolutely.
But it's sometimes it's those little things that build your faith a lot
Yeah.
more than the big things.
Absolutely. I used to teach my clients this, a victory list.
Mm.
Write down all of the little wins, or like maybe 10, because all you'll be writing for 8 days, right?
Keep going.
Write down some little wins and then get back on the phone and call, because you're essentially rehearsing, if I could do that, I can do this.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think when we get into that headspace of, and that's alignment, when we get into that headspace of we're winning already, what's more out there?
Right.
We
Because there's
keep
always
going.
more. There's more until you hit the dirt.
Absolutely.
There is
Absolutely.
more till you hit the dirt.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you for sharing with us your story. Thank you for
Problem.
sharing about your childhood. And it's just truly remarkable how a once suppressed child now can speak.
Right.
You know, like,
Right.
do you realize how remarkable that
Mhm.
is? A lot of people stay stuck in my words don't matter. I don't deserve to speak. But you took it and you listened to God and he showed you what was inside of you all along.
Because it's already in you. Everything you need is
Exactly.
inside you. You don't have to buy a camera. You don't have to buy a new phone, screens, whatever. Whatever you need is already inside of you. And you have to use what you have.
Absolutely.
Right. And there was a time where, like, I was like, how am I supposed to do this, God? Like, how am I supposed to do this? And he went back to the parable things. He had me watch the boy who harnessed the wind.
Mhm.
And after I watched it, I said, bet.
Yeah.
And
bet.
it's been going ever since.
Absolutely. But that's alignment.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally being led by something, by God. And
Mhm.
that's bigger than you because he sees the bigger picture. I
Right.
always tell people he is the beginning and the end.
Alpha and Omega.
And he is literally, life is one big test, but he's the cheat sheet.
Mm-hmm.
So when
He's the
you
cheat
look
code.
to him, he will literally tell you, hey, go left. Don't go right today. Go left.
You're going to feel something.
But it's not until you get in alignment with his will
Mm-hmm.
is he able to speak.
But you also have to look at past your life to see like the past and see where he
Look for
might
the
have
evidence.
stepped in.
Absolutely.
There was times, even here in New Orleans, like I would buy you classic, I was gone. Like
Mhm.
13 hand grenades, like I was
Mhm.
drinking, right? And I remember one night I was with some friends and somebody said, get off Bourbon Street.
Mm.
And they were like, I said, let's go, guys. And he was like, oh, no, no, we're good. And I was like, no, let's go.
Mm.
And everybody's like, okay, let's go. Started walking, found some other people we knew. You know, everybody wants to stop and start talking again. And I was
Mm-hmm.
just like, y'all, let's go. Nobody listened. So I was like, all right, I'm gone.
Yep.
I feel it. I'm gone. And as soon as I stepped my foot off, pop, 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 I said, yep.
Wow. And that's God's voice. That's God's protection. Like
Even when you don't
saying
know he's there.
exactly. And that's what I was gonna bring it to. He always has your hand in your life. You just gotta look for the evidence. I love how you said that, looking back, because I find myself sometimes, when God brought me home, I was like, all right,
I don't want to be here.
I don't want to be here. There's no evidence here. Then I had to look back in past seasons, living in Costa Rica, living in Houston. Did he ever fail me?
No.
Did he ever leave me and would be like, you know what? I'm going to have you as a homeless person with no food. No.
He even take care of the homeless.
Exactly. So
I would never leave nor
therefore,
forsaken you.
why am I not amping myself, being expectant for the win?
You have to expect it.
Yes, absolutely. And
You're right.
I think that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest takeaway. Living in alignment with God is scary.
Very.
Can we be
Very,
real?
very.
Can we be real?
Very.
But the payout is peace.
It is. Because I made a post about this on Threads the other day, and I said, because then that whole situation happened, I went to study in, and what God showed me that day was, just because you pray for something to go away doesn't mean it's gonna go away.
Mm-hmm. He
And
gonna
how you
part the
know-
Red Sea. He didn't say it's not gonna be shaky
But-
waters.
Even in the Red Sea, He was there.
Yep. Exactly.
And how you know He's evident in your situation is you have peace about that situation.
Absolutely. And that's it. That's literally the seed right here there. You didn't have peace in the tech world. But the minute you stepped outside of that boat, it wasn't easy, but you got to develop your character for your next move.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to build brick by brick, because when the house is built on steady,
Exactly.
stable foundation.
Exactly.
It's built on God. It can't just like be quicksand and it goes away. It's built because you built it and God built it brick by brick. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that story with us. Thank you for all of, I feel like you dropped some gems there. Like you
It
dropped
don't be
some
me, it be
gems
him.
there. Yes, truly. And it's truly remarkable what God is doing in your life. So how can we support you? What are your latest projects? That's enough there.
So I'm actually getting ready to launch a 4-day intensive for men.
Okay.
It's going to be, I'm creating a brotherhood that's like kind of disguised as it's a leadership program that's kind of disguised as a brotherhood, right? And so it's for us to come in and just have that connection.
Absolutely.
And also just to work on ourselves. But you can find me definitely on the Adam Wilson _ on TikTok, on Instagram, and Threads. My Substack article is Rise Inner King, because that's my platform, is the Inner King Initiative, and my podcast as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Definitely, I feel like the whole world and men, especially Black men, they need a space where they can just be. And it sounds like you're creating that in your intensive. So I definitely can't wait to hear more about it. I'm definitely going to be sending you some men your way.
Absolutely.
And just keep going. Thank you so much. So that is Pure Embodiment Corner, where we embody our corners on earth. And we basically inspire you to embody your corner until every corner on earth is covered. And that is all. Thank you so much for joining us, and see you next time.